It was our 5th wedding anniversary. I was dressed to the nines, waiting for my wife, Isabella Thorne, the CEO of Ascendant Technologies, to finally announce our secret marriage at the annual company gala. But then her high school sweetheart, the A-list actor Liam Carter, was suddenly splashed across the tabloids, caught in a late-night tryst with a model. Under the glare of the stage lights, Isabella gripped the microphone. She ignored my expectant gaze from the front table, ignored our 5 years of marriage. Disregarding me completely, she faced the sea of cameras and, in a clear, steady voice, made her official statement. Liam Carter and I are, in fact, in a relationship. I hope you'll all support his new film. The words dropped like a bomb. A moment of stunned silence. Then the room erupted in a thunderous, congratulatory roar. Swept up in the applause and cheers, Liam rushed the stage, pulling Isabella into a tight embrace. Then, under the adoring gaze of hundreds, he kissed her deeply. I was now the most pathetic spectator in the room. The guests around me were buzzing, gushing about what a perfect power couple they were, completely oblivious that the legal husband of their match made in heaven was sitting right next to them. An invisible hand seemed to clench around my heart, squeezing the air from my lungs. But I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I just watched the picture-perfect couple kissing on stage, then smiled and joined the crowd. I clapped along with them, my applause loud and forceful, offering my most sincere congratulations. The sound was sharp, rhythmic. It seemed to cut through the din, catching Isabella's attention. She pushed Liam away gently, her eyes finding mine across the crowded ballroom. I saw a flicker of surprise in her expression, maybe even a hint of guilt she couldn't quite hide. She probably expected me to get angry, to lose control, to storm the stage and demand an explanation. Too bad. I was going to disappoint her. I simply raised my champagne flute in a toast, the smile on my face widening as I drained the glass in one go. Then I turned and walked out, the sound of 1,000 blessings chasing me from the room. Isabella, from the moment you chose to sacrifice our marriage to pave the way for the one that got away, the only thing left between us is a final settlement. I returned to our home, the penthouse apartment with a panoramic view of the New York City skyline. I didn't leave a light on for her, the way I always did. Instead, I started packing. Methodically, piece by piece, I gathered everything that was mine. My clothes, my books, the laptop I'd used for 5 years, even the succulents I'd potted myself. 5 years ago, I turned down a lead research position at MIT's AI lab for Isabella, content to be the man behind the woman. She was the face of the company, building Ascendant Technologies into a $10 billion empire. I was the foundation, managing every detail of our life, her silent partner and biggest supporter. The world called her a once-in-a-generation business prodigy. No one knew that every key decision, every crisis averted at Ascendant had my fingerprints all over it. I, Leo Vance, was the true architect of her success. I loved her, so I was willing to hide my own brilliance, to let her take all the credit, to let her shine in the spotlight. I thought she understood what I was giving up. I thought 5 years of shared life and unwavering support would be enough to eclipse a teenage romance that went nowhere. Tonight, I learned I was wrong. In her heart, maybe I was just a functional partner, someone to provide comfort and support when she needed it, but a tool to be discarded without a second thought when her old flame's career was on the line. How utterly pathetic. Isabella came home around midnight. She'd clearly been drinking. Her cheeks were flushed. Her eyes landed on the packed suitcases by the door. Leo, what is this? Her tone was accusatory, as if I were the one in the wrong. It's exactly what it looks like. I'm moving out, I said calmly, zipping the last suitcase shut. She frowned, stepping closer. The faint scent of another man's cologne clung to her. Is this because of tonight? Leo, can you please be mature about this? Liam was getting dragged through the mud by a rival studio. She explained, her voice laced with impatience. I had to step in and clear his name. It was the most effective PR strategy. We're married. You, of all people, should understand and support me. I looked at her unshakable self-righteousness, and almost laughed. Oh, I understand. And I'm very supportive. That's why I was clapping the loudest for you tonight. And now, to avoid interfering with your and Mr. Carter's blossoming romance, I'm proactively getting out of your way. So, Ms. Thorne, am I being mature enough for you? The color finally drained from Isabella's face. She never expected me, the man who had always bent to her will, to speak with such venom. Leo, stop being ridiculous, she said, taking a deep breath as her tone softened. I know you're hurt. Tell you what, the house in the Hamptons, I'll have the title transferred to your name tomorrow. And here, she pulled a black credit card from her purse and held it out to me as if placating a disgruntled employee. $50 million. The pin is your birthday. Consider it compensation. Compensation? She wanted to put a price tag on 5 years of our lives. I looked at the card and laughed. Deal. I took it from her. Then, right in front of her, I snapped it in half. The sharp crack echoed in the silent living room. Isabella, we don't need compensation, I said, tossing the 2 pieces onto the coffee table. I'll walk away with nothing. With that, I grabbed my suitcases and headed for the door without a backward glance. Leo, her voice was tinged with panic. What do you want? I paused at the door, but didn't turn around. Isabella, be at City Hall tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock. Don't be late. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing off her world for mine. Walking out of that apartment, I was no longer the quiet man behind the CEO of Ascendant. I was Leo Vance, and I was back. The next day, I waited outside City Hall for an hour. Isabella never showed. Instead, her chief counsel, Jessica Shaw, arrived. Jessica had been an upperclassman to both of us in college, a top-tier lawyer known throughout the industry for her cool professionalism. Today, she wore a sharp black pantsuit, adjusting the gold-rimmed glasses on her nose as she handed me a folder. Mr. Vance, Ms. Thorne has an important international conference call this morning and couldn't make it. She asked me to give you this divorce agreement. I took it and scanned the pages. The terms were generous. In addition to the Hamptons villa and the $50 million she'd offered last night, she was adding a sliver of Ascendant stock, a paltry 0.5%. But it came with a string attached, an ironclad NDA that would legally forbid me from ever disclosing any information about our marriage. If I did, I'd face astronomical financial penalties. She really has thought of everything, I said, closing the folder with a self-deprecating laugh, trying to buy my 5 years of silence with crumbs while shackling me for life. Mr. Vance, Ms. Thorne is doing this for your own good as well, Jessica said, her tone calm and all business. She's a public figure now. Any negative press could have a serious impact on the company's stock price. For my good, I looked up at her. Then tell me, do you know who wrote the code for Project Genesis, the AI system that Ascendant's entire valuation is built on? Jessica froze. Do you know who stayed up for 7 days straight 3 years ago, devising the perfect counter-strategy when Ascendant was nearly wiped out by a hostile takeover from a Wall Street vulture? Her expression started to shift. And do you know who was feeding her the terrifyingly accurate data analysis and market predictions behind every single successful expansion she's so proud of? With every question, the color drained further from Jessica's face. These were Ascendant's most sensitive corporate secrets, known only to Isabella and me. Mr. Vance. She took everything from me. My work, my achievements, 5 years of my life, and then turned me into her dirty little secret. I ripped the agreement to shreds and tossed it into a nearby trash can. And now she thinks she can buy me off with pocket change. Jessica, I said, using her first name to cut through the professional facade. Go back and tell Isabella this. I will grant her this divorce. But not like this. Not in humiliation. Everything that belongs to me. I'm going to take it all back, piece by piece. Without another glance at the stunned lawyer, I turned and walked away. I didn't go home. I went straight to the offices of a company I'd registered months ago, Nexus Dynamics. A week ago, when I noticed Isabella's calls and texts with Liam Carter becoming more frequent, I knew this day was coming. I'd spent 5 years building her road to success. Now it was time to build my own. The Nexus Dynamics office was small, and the staff consisted of only a handful of my most trusted colleagues from our MIT days. When I walked in, Dave, my head of engineering, rushed over. Leo, you're finally here. The prototype for the Singularity Project. It's live. The Singularity Project. It was the culmination of 2 years of my own work, a next-generation interactive AI system I developed in my spare time. It was, at minimum, a full generation ahead of Ascendant's Project Genesis. It was supposed to be my next gift to Isabella. I had planned to give it to her after we went public with our marriage, securing Ascendant's dominance for the next decade. Now, it would be the first weapon I used to tear her down. Show me the data, I said, sliding into a chair. My hands flew across the keyboard, lines of code pouring onto the screen like a waterfall. These same hands once built an empire for Isabella Thorne. Now, they would bury it. For the next week, I practically lived at the office as my team, and I optimized and tested Singularity. Meanwhile, Isabella seemed to have snapped out of her triumphant haze. She started calling me, sending a flood of iMessages. At first, her tone was commanding. Leo, this tantrum has gone on long enough. Come home. Don't make this difficult for me. When I didn't respond, her tone softened as she tried to play the victim. Leo, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that to you. But you have to understand. Liam, he was my first love. I just wanted to see if that dream was real. Are our 5 years together really that fragile? Just give me some time. Once Liam's movie premieres and things settle down, I'll fix everything. Fix everything? How? By keeping Liam as her secret lover on the side, while I remained her invisible husband? I didn't reply to a single message. My silence must have finally spooked her. She started showing up outside my office building, waiting for me, bringing me all my old favorite things, coffee from that little shop in the village, pastries from the bakery I liked. But she didn't realize that every gift was just a painful reminder of how pathetic my last 5 years had been. One night, my team and I had just finished the final stress test on Singularity. As we walked out of the building, I saw her familiar Bentley parked at the curb. Isabella was leaning against it, her face pale and drawn. She rushed over the moment she saw me, grabbing my arm. Leo, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. No, just listen to me, she pleaded, her grip tightening, her eyes turning red. It's not what you think between me and Liam. Whatever you two are is none of my business. I cut her off coldly. Ms. Thorne, please have some self-respect. You're damaging my company's image. Your company? Isabella stared at me, then let out a bitter laugh. Leo, stop playing games and come home. How long can you keep this up on your savings? Without me, you're nothing. Isabella, I said, looking her dead in the eye, enunciating every word. You're about to learn that without me, you're the one who's nothing. I wrenched my arm free, gathered my team, and got into a waiting Uber, leaving her standing there. In the rearview mirror, her figure grew smaller and smaller, looking utterly alone. There was a time when that sight would have broken my heart. Now, I felt nothing at all. 2 days later, Nexus Dynamics held a small but exclusive press conference. We officially launched the Singularity AI system. As I stood on stage, personally demonstrating how Singularity's capabilities dwarfed those of Project Genesis, the room, filled with representatives from a dozen of the world's top venture capital firms, erupted. The moment the press conference ended, my office was flooded with term sheets. Overnight, Nexus Dynamics was the talk of the tech world, its valuation skyrocketing. I, Leo Vance, was no longer the man behind Isabella Thorne. I was the hottest new star in the tech universe. And this was just the beginning. The debut of Nexus Dynamics sent shockwaves through the industry, but nowhere was the impact felt more than at Ascendant Technologies. Project Genesis was their core product, the bedrock of their multi-billion-dollar valuation. The arrival of Singularity was a dagger aimed directly at Ascendant's heart. Ascendant's stock price plummeted. In 3 days, nearly $3 billion of market value evaporated. The board of directors was in chaos, putting immense pressure on Isabella. I could only imagine the hell she was going through. Sure enough, my phone rang. This time, her voice was strained, filled with exhaustion and disbelief. Leo, it was you, wasn't it? Singularity. That was your doing. Yes, I said, not bothering to deny it. A long silence stretched over the line, followed by a voice tight with suppressed fury. Why would you do this? Do you want to destroy Ascendant? Destroy me? Is that what it will take for you to be satisfied? I'm just taking back what's mine. What's yours? She shot back. Leo, don't forget, you are my husband. What's yours is mine. This is betrayal. I laughed. Isabella, when I sat there and watched you kiss another man on stage, announcing to the entire world that he was the one you loved, who betrayed who first. That's different. That was just. It's no different. I cut her off. You were willing to sacrifice me for your first love. Why can't I make a move on your company for the sake of my own career? Isabella, business is war. That's what you taught me, remember? With that, I hung up. I knew that call had shattered the last of her illusions. She finally understood I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. This was real. Her retaliation began immediately. She started leveraging all her resources to crush Nexus Dynamics. She used her industry influence to cut off our supply chains, poached our key engineers with massive offers, and even started spreading rumors that Singularity was built on stolen trade secrets from Ascendant. Suddenly, Nexus Dynamics was under siege from all sides. My team started to panic. Leo, what do we do? Dave asked, sweating bullets. Several of our potential investors have backed out, and our main hardware supplier just breached their contract. I remained perfectly calm. What's there to panic about? Everything she knows how to do, I know how to do, and the things she doesn't know, I know those too. I had spent 5 years building a vast network of contacts and alliances for Isabella. Now, it was time to make that network work for me. I scheduled a meeting with someone Isabella would never expect. Marcus Cole, Ascendant's second-largest shareholder and the man who had been coveting her CEO position for years. In a private tea room downtown, I slid a file across the table to him. Mr. Cole, this folder contains documented proof of every compliance violation at Ascendant for the past 3 years, and a detailed record of how Isabella has been using company funds to bankroll Liam Carter's production studio. Marcus Cole's eyes lit up. He looked at me as if I were some kind of mythical creature. How did you get your hands on this? Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is whether this is enough to get you the seat you want. What do you want? He asked. I want you to call for a vote of no confidence against Isabella at the next board meeting. Afterward, Nexus Dynamics will enter into a strategic partnership with the new leadership of Ascendant. And why should I trust you? Because of this, I smiled, activating a Pico projector on the table. The core architectural diagram for the second generation of Singularity appeared on the wall. Because Singularity will always be a generation ahead of Genesis. Marcus Cole's breathing grew heavy. He knew this was his one and only shot, and it was a golden one. All right, he said, his voice firm. I'm in. Everything proceeded according to my plan. 3 days later, Ascendant held an emergency board meeting. As soon as it began, Marcus Cole made his move, throwing the files I'd given him onto the center of the mahogany table. The boardroom exploded. Misappropriation of corporate funds, conflicts of interest, disastrous leadership decisions leading to a stock collapse. Each accusation was a nail in the coffin of her career. Isabella was speechless, her face ashen. She never imagined her most trusted executive would deliver the killing blow at her most vulnerable moment. Even less could she have imagined that the architect of her downfall was the man she once shared a bed with, the man she had so casually dismissed. Just as the board members were about to vote on her removal, the doors to the conference room swung open. It was Jessica Shaw, but she wasn't there today as Isabella's lawyer. She walked directly to Isabella's side and addressed the entire board, her voice ringing with authority. Gentlemen, before you cast your votes, I'd like you all to see something. She opened her laptop and connected it to the room's projector. An image of a stock transfer agreement appeared on the screen. 3 months ago, Ms. Thorne transferred 20% of her personal shares in Ascendant to her husband, Mr. Leo Vance. Furthermore, their marriage was not a secret, but was formalized 5 years ago with their registration in the state of Nevada. At the very inception of Ascendant Technologies, they also signed a prenuptial agreement, which was notarized. That agreement explicitly states that Ascendant is considered joint marital property, and that Mr. Vance holds 50% of all decision-making and profit-sharing rights. The only reason Ms. Thorne kept this private was due to Mr. Vance's personal dedication to research and development, and his aversion to the public spotlight. The room was dead silent. Every board member, including Marcus Cole, was stunned. I was stunned, too. I had never heard of any such agreement. When the hell was Isabella playing at? As for Mr. Cole's allegations of improper fund allocation, Jessica continued, turning her gaze on the now-pale executive. The investment in Liam Carter's studio was approved by Mr. Vance as a standard investment in the entertainment sector. We have a signed authorization right here. A document appeared on the screen. In the bottom right corner was my signature. It was a perfect forgery. Then it hit me. 6 months ago, Isabella had me sign a stack of papers. She said it was for a small investment in an indie art house film with a promising new director. I trusted her. I signed without a second thought. The promising new director, it turned out, was Liam Carter. She'd been laying this trap for months. So, gentlemen of the board, Jessica's voice was cool and powerful. Ms. Thorne and Mr. Vance are the true masters of Ascendant Technologies. Your actions today could be legally interpreted as a malicious attempt to usurp control of the company. We reserve the right to pursue all legal remedies. The tables had turned in an instant. Marcus Cole's carefully planned coup had dissolved into a joke. He collapsed back into his chair, his face the color of ash. And Isabella, she slowly rose to her feet. Her gaze seemed to pierce through the camera, as if she were looking right at me on the other side of the screen. Her eyes held no joy of victory, only a profound sadness and a chilling resolve. She had won. She had saved her throne in a way I never saw coming. She wasn't some impulsive, love-struck fool. She was infinitely more complex and more ruthless than I had ever imagined. She had played me, she had played Liam Carter, and she had played her entire board of directors. In that moment, I finally understood. The public declaration of love, the seemingly idiotic sacrifice of her marriage. It might have all been part of the game, a gambit designed to flush me out to see just how many cards I was holding. I switched off the remote feed. In my office, Dave and the rest of the team were staring at each other, bewildered. Leo, what the hell just happened? Isabella, I thought she was just lovesick. Yeah, Everyone thought she'd lost her mind over some old flame. It turned out she was more clear-headed than any of us. With one calculated, seemingly reckless PR disaster, she had perfectly gauged the reactions of three key groups. First, the market and the public's tolerance for her relationship with Liam. Second, who on her board was loyal and who was a snake waiting to strike. And third, and most importantly, she tested me, Leo Vance, her seemingly harmless husband, to see just how much power I was hiding. The result, Marcus Cole took the bait and was neutralized. I took the bait and revealed my biggest trump cards, Nexus Dynamics and the Singularity Project. She even used my past trust in her to forge my signature, retroactively legalizing her funneling of money to Liam's career. A brilliant move. One stone, three birds, forcing the snakes out of the grass. This woman was more formidable than I had ever given her credit for. Strangely, I didn't feel defeated. Instead, a long-dormant thrill ignited within me. This was interesting. If Isabella had just been some foolish woman blinded by love, this victory would have been hollow. Dave, I said, turning to my team, a smile returning to my face. Get everyone on deck. We're initiating Plan B. You have a Plan B? Of course, I said, my gaze fixed on the towering skyscraper of Ascendant Technologies outside my window. She wants to play? I'll play. The game is just getting started. Isabella's counterattack was swift. After quelling the rebellion on her board, she immediately filed a lawsuit against me. Citing joint marital property, she petitioned the court to freeze all of Nexus Dynamics' assets and demanded I surrender full ownership of the Singularity Project. Her legal argument was simple and strong. I developed Singularity while we were married, therefore it was community property and by extension belonged to Ascendant. She was trying to bleed me dry. Jessica Shaw, acting as her attorney, came to see me again. This time, her eyes held a new, more complex emotion. Leo, give it up, she said. You can't win against her. Jessica, I replied, pouring her a cup of tea. In your eyes, am I just an ungrateful, overconfident fool right now? She remained silent. I know she's your best friend. It's only natural that you'd help her, I said with a small smile. But I have to ask you one question. As a top legal professional, do you truly believe that what she's doing is legally and morally defensible? Jessica's lips parted, but no words came out. That prenup you presented to the board, was it real? Did that stock transfer actually happen? I held her gaze, refusing to let her look away. She finally broke eye contact. Those are the materials my client provided to me. My only responsibility is to represent her legal interests to the best of my ability. Her voice was strained. I understood. It was all fake. A fabrication Isabella had Jessica concoct overnight to save her skin at the board meeting. And Jessica, knowing it was fraud, chose to help her. All because they were best friends. Well, Jessica, I said, standing up to show her the door. I guess we'll see you in court. I hope, for your sake, you don't come to regret the choice you made today. After she left, I made an international call. Professor, it's me, Leo. I need your help. On the other end of the line was my mentor, Professor Alistair Finch, a titan in the global AI community and a man with a famously aggressive legal team. When I turned down his offer to work with him 5 years ago for Isabella, he was so angry he nearly disowned me. Oomph. You brat. So you do remember you have a professor, he grumbled. Let me guess. Some woman has cheated you and left you for dead. I managed a weak laugh. Is it that obvious? You've made so much noise, it's hard to miss. This Isabella Thorne woman. I look her up. She's clever, but her methods are rotten. You were a blind fool to fall for her. Professor, I need you to help me prove that Singularity's core algorithm is derived from the research paper we co-authored 3 years ago, and that all the seed money for Nexus Dynamics came from my premarital patent royalties. Is that all? I thought it was something serious, he said dismissively. Don't worry, my team has already prepared the entire evidence chain for you. It's time you learned what professional really means. And one more thing, I'm sending you a little gift. What kind of gift? You'll see. And listen, you brat, if you lose this time, don't you dare tell anyone you were my student. I hung up the phone, a weight lifting from my shoulders. Isabella, did you really think the law was just a tool you could manipulate at will? You were wrong. The law serves only one master, the evidence. The day of the hearing arrived. Isabella appeared in person, dressed in a pristine white suit, radiating the same cool, regal aura as always. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps, their headlines already written. Tech CEO and husband face off in bitter divorce, battle for control of a $10 billion empire. Liam Carter was there too, hidden behind sunglasses and a mask in a corner of the gallery, a silent show of support for Isabella. The hearing began. Jessica, representing Isabella, went on the offensive. She submitted the forged stock agreement and the prenuptial documents, arguing with crisp logic that the Singularity Project rightfully belonged to Ascendant. Everything seemed to be going Isabella's way. When it was my turn, I waived my right to a lawyer and chose to represent myself. I stood and faced Jessica. Ms. Shaw, I began. The prenuptial agreement you submitted, which you claim was notarized in Nevada. Could you please confirm the name of the notarizing body listed on the document? Jessica, caught off guard by the question, glanced at her papers. It says that, Nevada Federal Notary Office. And can you please tell the court, Ms. Shaw, if you're aware that no such entity as a federal notary office exists in the United States? That all notary services are performed by state-commissioned individuals. The color drained from Jessica's face. Swish. In her haste to fabricate the documents, she'd made a fatal amateur mistake. She'd assumed I was an easy mark, someone who wouldn't know the first thing about legal procedure. That could be a clerical error. She stammered. A clerical error? I smiled. Well, I assume there are no clerical errors in this. I presented my own evidence to the court. A signed affidavit from my mentor, Professor Alastair Finch, the current chairman of the World AI Association. The evidence was damning. It included a detailed technological timeline, proving Singularity's core was an evolution of my premarital, independent academic research. It also included bank statements, tracing every dollar of Nexus Dynamics startup capital directly to a personal account that had existed long before I ever met Isabella. The proof was absolute. The ironclad case Jessica had built was nothing but a house of cards, and it collapsed in an instant. The judge immediately dismissed all of Isabella's claims and announced a formal investigation into Jessica Shaw for perjury and submission of fraudulent documents. Jessica sank into her chair, her expression vacant. Her career was likely over. I looked at Isabella. She was still sitting perfectly upright, but the white-knuckled grip she had on her purse betrayed the turmoil within. She had lost the first battle, but that wasn't enough. After the hearing, I caught Liam Carter as he was trying to slip out unnoticed. Mr. Carter, don't be in such a hurry. He flinched, turning around with shifty eyes. What do you want? Nothing much, I said, stepping closer and lowering my voice. Just a friendly tip. Isabella is about to have her hands full. That little indie film of yours, the one she's bankrolling, without a fresh injection of cash for marketing and distribution, I doubt it will ever see the light of day. You might want to start looking for a new patron. The blood drained from his face. I clapped him on the shoulder, smiled, and walked away. I knew the seed of doubt I had just planted would quickly take root. A self-serving narcissist like him would never go down with a sinking ship. I wanted Isabella to know exactly what it felt like to have everyone abandon her. The court's decision was the final straw for Ascendant's board. The company's stock went into a freefall. Losing all patience, they bypassed Isabella and came directly to me. Their offer was tempting. Merge Nexus Dynamics with Ascendant, and they would immediately oust Isabella and make me the new chairman. I turned them down. Ascendant is a sinking ship, and its decks are filthy, I told Marcus Cole, who had come as their envoy. I have no desire to see my Singularity project tainted by that kind of corruption. My goal was never to become the next Isabella Thorne or to replace her. My goal is to build something new, an empire that belongs to Leo Vance. They left disappointed. They couldn't comprehend that my ambitions were bigger than a single company. I wasn't playing for a piece of the pie. I was building my own bakery, and Isabella, after the humiliating defeat in court and the catastrophic stock crash, finally shed her layers of pride and pretense. For the first time, she came to my small office at Nexus Dynamics. She wasn't wearing an expensive designer suit, just a simple white blouse and jeans. With no makeup, she looked exhausted and fragile. Leo, can we please stop fighting? She asked, her voice hoarse, her eyes red-rimmed. I surrender. I'll give you Ascendant. I'll give you everything. I don't want any of it. Can we just go back to how things were? Please. She started to cry, tears streaming down her face like broken pearls. It was the first time in 5 years I had ever seen her cry with such raw despair. The old Leo would have been gutted, would have pulled her into his arms without a second thought. But now my heart was stone. Isabella, I said, my voice even, do you really think we can ever go back? Yes, we can. I know we can, she said desperately. I was crazy. I was wrong. I shouldn't have tested you. I shouldn't have used you. I know I broke your heart, but just give me one more chance. Just one last chance. I promise I'll make it up to you. Make it up to me? I interrupted. Is your idea of making it up to me trapping me with schemes you thought I'd never uncover, turning me into your possession. Isabella's body went rigid. She stared at me in disbelief. What? What do you know? I know a lot more than you think. I opened my desk drawer and took something out. A digital voice recorder. I pressed play. The speakers filled with the sound of Isabella's voice, talking to Jessica. It was from a conversation they'd had in her office right after the board meeting fiasco. Isabella's tone was a mix of weariness and smug satisfaction. Leo is still too naive. He thought he was being so clever, but I forced his hand. He played his entire hand at once. Jessica's voice was hesitant. Isabella, don't you think this is too cruel? After all, Isabella cut her off with a cold laugh. Cruel to him? He betrayed me first. He was building Nexus Dynamics behind my back, planning to leave me and start his own kingdom. I saw it coming a mile away. Better for me to strike first than to wait for him to become strong enough to replace me. Once Nexus and Singularity are absorbed into Ascendant, I'll have clipped his wings for good. Then he'll have no choice but to come back to my side, to be my loyal, obedient husband. I can't afford to lose his talent, but I will not tolerate his betrayal. As for Liam, he's just a pawn, a useful tool to provoke Leo and to distract the board. Once this is all over, I'll pay him off and send him on his way. A man is only useful if I can control him. The recording ended, plunging the office into a thick, suffocating silence. The color had completely drained from Isabella's face. Her lips trembled as she stared at me as if I were a monster. When did you? The day I moved out, I said calmly. I put in the planter by your desk. I just wanted to know, once and for all, what I really meant to you. The results were enlightening. This was my true trump card, not Singularity, not my Minner's connections. It was this final, damning insight into her soul. If the recording had revealed even a shred of genuine love for me, perhaps I wouldn't have been so merciless. But her words had ground the last of my feelings for her into dust. To her, I wasn't a partner or a lover. I was a talented asset that needed to be controlled. Her love was a toxic cocktail of utility, fear, and a possessive need for control. It was cheap enough to be sickening. Isabella finally broke. She lunged at me, trying to grab the recorder, but I stepped aside easily. She stumbled and fell to the floor, letting out a raw, desperate sob. Leo, why are you doing this to me? I was so afraid of losing you. She cried incoherently. I love you. Everything I did was because I love you. Love. I looked down at her, my eyes devoid of warmth. Your love means breaking my wings and locking me in a golden cage. Save your pathetic lies, Isabella. You have only ever loved yourself. Your power, your empire, your control. I put the recorder back in my pocket. I won't be releasing this. Not for your sake, but because the whole affair is just dirty, and I don't want to send it. I want to watch as the empire you built with your own hands crumbles into dust. What? What else are you going to do? She looked up, her eyes wide with terror. I smiled. Remember when my professor said he was sending me a gift? Well, it just arrived. I turned my phone screen toward her. A breaking news alert was displayed. The headline read, Wall Street's Abyss Capital launches hostile takeover bid for Ascendant Technologies. Abyss Capital. Isabella whispered the name, and the last glimmer of light died in her eyes. She knew that name. 3 years ago, it was that same Wall Street vulture that had nearly devoured Ascendant in its infancy. It was me, working 7 days and nights without sleep, who had fought them off. And now they were back. Only this time, the man who had once been her shield was standing on the other side, smiling as he watched her despair. Why? Why would Professor Finch do this? Isabella asked, sprawled on the floor, unable to process it. Because the man who runs Abyss Capital was once Professor Finch's most brilliant student. My senior. They had a falling out years ago over academic and business ethics. The professor always felt that I, by saving you, had unfairly blocked my senior's path. So, his condition for helping me was that I stay out of this fight between Ascendant and Abyss. He called it cleaning house. And of course, I wouldn't help. In fact, I was about to add a little fuel to the fire. I tossed a file onto the floor in front of her. It was a strategic partnership agreement between Nexus Dynamics and Vanguard Industries, Europe's largest technology conglomerate. We would be co-developing a next-generation global IoT smart ecosystem. While you're busy fighting off Abyss Capital, I'll be taking over all of your overseas markets. By the time your capital runs dry, your board members will circle you like sharks that smell blood in the water. As for your first love, I pulled out another document. This is a complete file on Liam Carter's tax evasion, along with proof of his affairs with several other actresses. Oh, and the source? His most trusted agent. Help that agent find a much better job. Isabella's body began to tremble violently, cutting off her resources, kicking her while she's down, turning everyone against her. I was using every tactic she had ever used against others, and I was giving it back to her all at once. Enjoy the bitter harvest you've sown, Isabella. I turned and left the office, leaving her desperate sobs far behind me. The end was already written. Everything that followed played out exactly as I predicted, perhaps with even more melodrama. The assault from Abyss Capital was relentless and brutal. Ascendant's defenses crumbled day by day. Isabella tried to mount a counteroffensive, but without me as her ghost strategist. Her decisions were clumsy and reactive, only accelerating the company's collapse. At the same time, the Liam Carter scandal exploded. Tax evasion, a string of sordid affairs. He was instantly knocked from his A-list pedestal and became a public pariah. Facing massive fines and potential jail time, he made one last, desperate move. He released a tearful video confession, claiming he was a victim, coerced and manipulated by Isabella Thorne. He claimed she had promised to fund his film if he agreed to play the part of her lover to make her husband jealous. He went on to allege that she had engaged in numerous illegal activities to sabotage her business rivals over the years. The video was the final nail in Ascendant's coffin. Public opinion turned on a dime. Isabella went from being a powerful, scorned woman to a Machiavellian villain who manipulated people for sport. Ascendant's reputation was destroyed. The stock flatlined. In the end, Abyss Capital acquired the company for pennies on the dollar. The era of Isabella Thorne was over. She lost everything. Her company, her reputation, her fortune. Even her best friend, Jessica Shaw, was found guilty of perjury and disbarred. Her career ruined. Isabella was, in the truest sense of the word, completely alone. 6 months later, I saw my own face on the cover of Forbes. The headline read, Nexus Dynamics, Leo Vance and the Dawn of a New Tech Era. My company, after partnering with Vanguard, had gone public. Our valuation had soared, making us the most watched unicorn in the world. That night, I was at a charity gala. In the parking garage afterward, I saw a figure who was both familiar and a stranger. It was Isabella. She was wearing a simple uniform, working as a server at the high-end restaurant hosting the event. A drunk guest was berating her, and then threw the contents of his wine glass in her face. She didn't react, just stood there with her head bowed, taking it. The once untouchable queen was now lower than the dust. She saw me. Her eyes were a complex storm of resentment, regret, and something deeper, a numb, hollow despair. I didn't move. I just watched, my face impassive. My assistant, who was holding the car door for me, asked, Mr. Vance, should I take care of that? I shook my head. No, let's go. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back. When it came to Isabella, there was no love left, but there was no hatred either. Her fate was the consequence of her own actions. It had nothing to do with me. I felt no saintly pity for her, nor the hollow emptiness of revenge fulfilled. My goal was never just to get back at her. My goal was the stars, to build a future that was truly my own. My phone lit up with an iMessage from Dave. Dude, you ducked out on the celebration dinner again. We're all waiting for you. By the way, just saw the news. That actor, Liam Carter, got 3 years. Justice. I smiled and typed back a reply. On my way. Outside the car window, the city lights blazed like a river of stars. My new life had just begun, and the feeling of being in control, it was exhilarating.